have someone joining that I have?
Wait.
Yep. Yeah, by the way, is it fair for us to insist on their having their camera on? Because if we were in a public meeting, we would see their face.
No. The person, okay, once they join, I'm gonna.
Rules or procedures? Okay, that's fine.
Yes, give me a second. My camera will be on in a bit.
Okay, that's fine.
Who is this?
This
Okay,
is Oscar. How you guys doing?
Okay, let me ask, the person who just entered under Samsung S9, can you please tell us your name?
Still connecting.
Okay, we're waiting.
I know you can see my lovely face.
Everybody's signed.
Don't answer at once.
Is the Samsung still connecting? So we started at 7:10.
Can I just ask that you let us know when they can hear us? Remember we had that conversation, yeah? Sarah, we're good? When the mic is
Well, we're
hot.
good. As soon as that audio connects, I will ask them to name themselves.
Okay, so, I'll just start off with, item number 1, welcome everyone, thanks for coming. The meeting is 7:10, and the people who have extraordinary circumstances, if they show up, are Chuck Mertla, Bob Fanuzzi, and Oscar. I'm going to skip my report for now and do it a bit later. We'll go on to the treasurer's report.
Oh, can we share the screen, right?
Your voices are pretty low in the back.
We didn't talk yet, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's stuck on the screen.
Have you started recording?
Yes. It's all in that yellow folder. Right there. Okay.
Okay, so on the screen is the December report, 24. One update of PS, salaries paid, and OCPS, which is everything else, the supplies that we use, and materials for the office. Current balance is broken down further in table 1.1. Some of the things that are in the works right now include a $315 locksmith invoice to fix the outer door, the office door lock. $165.41. It's a permit for our next full board meeting, which will be at the INSEC Academy. Some of the purchases that we made recently, and we still have $10,000 in under code 490. The proposed budget mod, as you can see in table 1.2, I'm going to focus on that right now. It's
Budget mode?
So as I indicated last month, we do have some funds available. It was confirmed by OMB because we went a few months without a community coordinator. So, those funds are being unused. So we propose to transfer $4,000 from PS into OCPS. This table breaks down exactly where those funds are going to go. Propose sending $2,340. If you want to scroll down a little bit. $340 into the general short code 100, that's general supplies. That's one of our more popular object codes. $100 into printing supplies. I know we have some printing projects coming up, so I want to make sure that's funded. And finally, $60 in the newly created code 403 office services. Sarah provides notary services for constituents, so we want to make sure she gets reimbursed for her dues that are coming up. That's going to be the proposed resolution. The language states, pertinent part.
So can I ask a quick question? Just a quick question. So you had the modification is $4,000 and the budget is $30,000. Is the $4,000 in the 30, or does that 30 change to 34?
That would make it 34.
Okay, so that's, got it. Thank you.
Sorry, yes. So the language says, whereas the Office of Management and Budget has confirmed that funds are available to transfer from PS to OCPS due to the board's extended period without a community coordinator, Whereas to support the work of the board office, the budget modification for fiscal year '24 has been prepared and it's below. Be it resolved, Community Board 8 approves the budget modification in order to further support the work of 100%. Is in our report for this month.
I didn't know that you were a notary. That's very good, very handy. You're a notary.
I am, yeah. And there's, people have used our services here since I've been here.
That's very good to know, very handy.
I don't have to take the course or pay for it, I just have to pay for the renewal fee. So that comes up in March.
Excellent.
I believe Julie is a notary as well.
Yes. Hey, Scott, anybody have any questions for Scott? We'll do the district manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. Our new community coordinator, Artie, has started working for us. I'm working closely with him, making sure he's getting familiar and comfortable with his job duties, and I have set him up to take all trainings needed. He should be able to start using our FMS portal by the end of the month. And as Artie becomes more familiar with everything, I'll be assigning him to committees and will inform you when that is finalized. In the meantime, I'm having him attend and review all committees and see how they run. I'm happy to say he seems to be catching on quickly, and we're working together right now on starting the newsletter, because now I have time to actually work on that with him, so thank you. We had our first turkey giveaway event on Monday, November 20th, donating 200 turkeys. They were donated by the Stag Group, and we gave them out to several organizations, PS 81, Marble Hill Houses, Fort Independence Houses, St. Stephen's Church, the 50th Precinct, and Riverdale Neighborhood House, as well as residents in the area that RSVP'd. There's a very nice photo on the front page of the Riverdale Press. If anyone hasn't seen it, we'll pass it around. All right, I'll continue, if that's okay. I want to thank our board member volunteers, Julie Reyes, Chris Calhoun, and Bob Bender for helping throughout that very cold day. Thank you. I have scheduled a Department of Buildings Constituent Services Day in our office. There's flyers for everyone here. And they will be coming in on December 15th from 10 to 2 p.m. And all residents and board members are encouraged to come in to ask any questions of DOB representative that will be here. If it is something that we see is popular and well received, we can arrange for more dates in the office as a resource for our community. We posted the flyer to our contacts as well as to the Riverdale Press, and Assemblyman Dinowitz's office will post it in his newsletter. I've been reaching out to several community organizations, churches, schools in the area to confirm if we can use their space to hold our full board or committee meetings. We have secured several spaces throughout the district, and I'm making sure we hold them in all areas of the district of Riverdale, Kingsbridge, Van Cortlandt, Marble Hill, as has been requested by our chairperson, Julie Reyes. So please be sure to always check the calendar and agenda for the location of the meeting, since they are different each month. As stated in our job requirements, staff is required to attend 2 to 3 meetings a month, one being the full board meeting. So I just want to make sure that all of our committees are getting comfortable with having a member of their committee run Zoom as part of their meeting, since staff cannot attend every meeting. If you or a member of your committee still needs a training, please reach out to the office and we'll be happy to arrange for that. I have been working closely with Chairperson Reyes as well, touring potential new office space, and she will give us more details on that. Lastly, I recently held the District Service Cabinet meeting December 5th, and will post the minutes to the full board shortly. And I will hold the next District Service Cabinet meeting on Tuesday, January 2nd. Thank you, and happy holidays to everyone.
Not a question, but a comment. I want to thank Farah. It was she who organized the turkey giveaway, which was very successful. She put it all together, contacted all the different organizations we donated to. And I want to say that it was very impressive to see Farah and Julie wrestling 50-pound boxes of frozen turkeys into the different carriages and carts that came out to greet us. So these are two strong women.
Thank you. You as well, Bob.
I don't know how you picked those turkeys up. And Chris Calhoun, he stayed outside the whole day.
Yes.
He froze, and he wouldn't come in. He hung in there. We'll do roll call.
Julie Reyes.
Present.
Joe Villaverde. President. Scott Pumpinger.
Present.
Beth Walter. Present. Dina Martinez. Present. Nicholas Fazio.
Present.
Alexander. Here. Bob Panuzzi. Rabbi Kaplan. Rosemary Ginty. Here. Merdler. Molpoff.
Here.
Deborah Travis. Present. Edward Green.
Present.
Lee Buford. Present. Gomez. David Gelman.
Present.
Bob Bender.
Here.
Oh, yeah, I apologize. Did you mention there's any EC?
Chuck Mertla, Bob Snoozy, and Bob Snoozy may be like a few minutes late, he said,
Okay.
and Oscar.
You on?
Oscar's
Oscar's there.
And Marianne.
We should unmute him.
Raise his hand, because we have to mute all. I
Oh.
don't want to mess with that, right? Is he? There's 14 present. 3, 1 EC.
Can
14 present for quorum.
Oscar and Mary Ellen be unmuted, just the two of them?
Mary Ellen's attending.
Hello, I'm virtually present. Gonna get a babysitter. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Even though she's
Oh, okay,
an
yeah.
attendee.
Couldn't get a babysitter,
board
so.
member, she raises her hand. You could unmute Mary Ellen, and Mary Ellen, raise your hand if you need to talk, because it's for the chairs, but
Here I am, I'm here.
doesn't recognize you.
President accounted for.
Who is that, the Samsung person?
Were you gonna, just keep them muted the whole time? They can't, unless there's an image, Artie's gonna be ready.
It's not Bob, right?
We don't know who it is.
Right.
Oh, the Samsung guy, too?
Oh, he came early. That was
He has the ability to rename if he wants to.
We'll do the, item number 6, approval of the November 1st Executive Committee minutes. Have any comments on the minutes?
Let me just ask a question, or make a suggestion. It's, I see the resolutions, or you see how they're put on the list, they're just topics. You always,
We're doing the minutes first.
yeah, they're in the minutes.
No. Are you talking about the actual minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. I thought you meant on the agenda.
No, the
Okay.
minutes, I remember reading them, so it's gotta be here. It's just a title, so you have no idea what it is. So, 246 Grosvenor Avenue, that's it. I view these minutes as for the community, not for us. They're for the community, and I think it would be helpful if the resolutions were put in the minutes. That's just my comment.
Resolutions that we discussed.
That were discussed at,
So we don't vote for anything.
That's correct. That's right. But they've always been printed, that's all. And I just want to make that comment. I believe they should be there for the community at large to see what came up at the executive committee meeting. And I find the listing less than useful. That's my only comment. So whatever gets done, gets done. I just want to make that comment.
The item that goes out indicating the meeting should also indicate what the resolutions are. The public has a right to know. The agenda has all the resolutions. That went out to the public. Yeah. So it's out there.
No, I understand, but also is our executive committee, but listen, we're spending too much time on this. Our executive committee minutes are out there too, and I still stay with my comment. The community should see the resolutions that are discussed at executive committee, that's all.
That was actually in the bylaw somewhere, I read it somewhere. Actually, yeah, I was looking for it.
I know.
Yeah, it goes in, and pending, it's item number 9 on. So noted. Anybody else have any other comments?
Okay.
We have to vote on the minutes.
Anybody opposed? Abstain? Approved unanimously. Thank you, Bob. Go to committee reports and resolutions. We will start with the aging. Oscar, do you have any report? Oscar, you have to, when you're in extraordinary circumstances, you have to show your face throughout the meeting if you're on Zoom and you have the excusal. You can't have your logo, you have to be live.
Seemed like he was in transit, last I saw.
Who's walking around?
Right.
Which means he's probably not present at the moment.
Yeah.
Probably.
Go back.
Shall we skip ahead to budget?
Just bear with me a sec. There was a baby crying, so that's why he's no longer crying.
How cute.
So I had to take care of that.
I'd rather he went back to the baby.
Yeah.
Okay, do you have anything to report, Oscar?
No. So the next agent committee meeting is next Thursday, the 14th, and I'm finalizing a guest speaker, but we'll have more on that before the end of the week.
Okay, thank you. Go on to budget. David?
Okay. Nothing to report, but just to remind all the chairs, December, please put it in your agendas to remind your committee members to come back in January with budget ideas for fiscal 25. Sorry, 26, excuse me. Fiscal year 26, which starts July 1st of 25. But please put it on your agenda, because otherwise it sort of falls off the table and people don't think about it until March. Put in your agenda to mind specifically to all of your committee members for January.
Hi, good evening, everyone. David will be happy to hear that we had it on our agenda in September, and we already have some budget item requests flowing into our spreadsheet that everyone in the Economic Development Committee has access to. So that will be on the agenda when we meet in January or February, depending on what we decide to do with land use regarding the city of Yes, which we had a very constructive discussion yesterday about that, and some of you were here. If you didn't, you should please refer to the minutes. We will be announcing the opening of the nominating period for the Betty Campbell Adams Most Valuable Merchant Award in January, and I'm working with FAIR now to update the nomination form. We'll send out a press release. So if you know of any businesses that you want to nominate, please send them in starting in January.
Remember when we did the walkthrough, the owner for the, place?
Yeah, I think somebody has already mentioned that they want to nominate them, so we'll be on the lookout for that.
Anybody have any questions for Nick? Libraries and Cultural Affairs, Sylvia?
That, at the FDA at our meeting in October, we passed a resolution in, November for the Van Cortlandt, Motel, and, this brief discussion on SLA had a misprint. It say FCA.
Notice that.
Our next meeting is on the 26th of December.
That was in the resolution, had the misprint, or with?
On the sheet, here, with the listing of the, reports. The committee reports. It's SLA. FCA.
And Julia, who's your vice chair? Who's your vice chair?
What?
Vice chair.
But I haven't really,
Yeah, okay, thank you. Julia.
Write it down.
Environment and sanitation, I'll tell him I'd come back to him, because he did say he was gonna run a little late, so Hospitals? Anyone reporting for health and hospitals? Rosemary?
Yes, very much like Nick said, the City of Yes, we did talk about the Housing Authority piece that's in it, and the Housing Committee was unanimously opposed to the proposal. We've spoken with Fort Independence people and Marble Hill people, and they think it is inappropriate for their residential developments to have more truck traffic and garbage coming out and neon signage on their buildings. They just are not, thanks but no thanks is kind of their answer. In addition, I just think that the group might be interested. City Council recently passed a law that establishes housing targets for each individual community board. They don't have it in the legislation. They're going to be establishing housing targets for every single community board, based on 5-year plans, and then follow how we meet the 5-year plans. It's interesting to me as the Housing Committee Chair that what they're focusing on are 5 areas that they want to know how community boards are doing. Total housing units, affordable housing units, deeply affordable housing units, housing for formerly homeless families, and then preservation of housing units. So those are the 5 areas that they're going to give us targets, and we will have to, they'll be reporting on how we do as time goes on. Now, what's, I don't know if it's interesting or not, but it passed the council. The mayor hasn't signed it yet, so it's not a local law until the mayor signs it, and I keep going back every day to see if the mayor has signed it, and he hasn't yet, so. Our next meeting is December 20th, and thank you, Farah. We're trying to get Councilmember Sanchez to be a speaker. She's not only a council member for a portion of our district, she's also the chair of the Housing Committee on the City Council. So hopefully we can get that. That'd be very useful. And also Eric Dinowitz to talk to us about Local Law 97, which just became effective October 24th, And just, I think everybody would be interested in knowing, we tried to get the buildings department to come, and they won't because they don't have a budget to send anybody to night meetings. So, the committee said, well, let's ask, our council member, Dinowitz. So we'll see. Hopefully, we can get both of them as speakers, but that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Formerly homeless units, and what was the fifth one?
Preservation of housing units.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Does this, council document explain the difference between affordable and deeply affordable?
Yes. It's a piece of legislation, so every term is defined, yes. I didn't bring it with me to,
Yeah, because I'd be curious to know what the distinction
I'll
is.
be glad to send it. It's numerical, you know, and I forget.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
There actually is a third category below that, but they didn't have it, they did not want to put it into the reporting part of this. So it's only the 5 that I gave you are going to be reported on. But through the definitions, they even have a level lower than deeply affordable. That's right, yes.
So, do you happen to have the intro number of that?
Sure,
offhand?
1031-A.
And,
to 1031-A.
dash A. And were they also is trying to establish, because as I remember, when we went over 2186.
Better memory than me, what we were
2186 was the, housing for all. It was that huge piece of legislation they tried to put through, Corey Johnson tried to put through in the legislature.
years ago, yes,
Is
yes.
this similar to that, because that was establishing quotas for each?
No,
it's not.
the Corey Johnson one was gigantic.
Right, but there was a piece
And there was
in
a
it.
piece of it, absolutely a piece of it, but this is the piece, this is it. The 5-year plan,
why I asked.
these are the categories, yeah.
So that's the piece that they took out, and that's this legislation,
It
in your
may-
estimation.
It certainly is similar, but,
Similar.
you know,
All right, I'll read it.
there were whole new council members
Yeah,
with
yeah,
new
it's gonna be
ideas, you know.
I'll take it.
Um,
Second question, on City of Yes, in your estimation of your committee, because obviously you
Yeah.
didn't have a vote, is your committee against City of Yes for economic development, or just this particular clause?
we just looked at this because it
Okay.
dealt directly with housing,
Mhm.
and, we thought, you know, housing should not be stepping on the toes of any other committee.
Okay, no,
But this
because the way you
was
stated it was
housing.
like you're against the proposal. It's
No,
confusing because there's 18 different proposals kind of lumped into one proposal. So
No,
I just wanted
but
to make sure that was clear.
As community board members, we each individually will be voting yes or no on the item, but I think as a committee, unless the chair, thinks that we should weigh in, I would tend not to, as the housing committee, as a unit to do
Mhm.
that, except for the pieces that are directly relevant to housing.
Got it.
Yes.
Local law 97, for trying to
Yes.
get someone to come to speak to it. I
Yes.
don't know, NYC Accelerator is the government organization that's been set up to provide guidance to co-ops trying to.
On that issue?
So they've done, I know they're doing presentations all over the place for like Association of Riverdale Cooperatives and other groups like that.
Thank you, that's helpful.
So, yeah.
To hell with the buildings department, we'll get this group to do it. Good,
They know
okay.
grants and everything, and they're the people that if you want to comply, you should just call, contact them, and then they connect you.
Thank you, Deb, thank you, that's very helpful, good.
I'm planning to, focus the last 2 meetings, and perhaps the next one, going to be a combination of, economic development and, land use, discussing City of, Yes. We had 2 representatives from, Department of City Planning, help respond to some of our inquiries, and I believe our January meeting is when we'll actually comb item by item and make a recommendation and anticipate the board meeting, whatever it works out. Right now, it's primarily a of inquiry, learning more about what is being offered. The only other thing is that did approve a request by
Riverdale Country.
Riverdale Country to expand their walk driveway access and honestly approved.
Any questions?
A little bit longer. I have 5 items I believe I want to touch on. They were reported last night on Waldo Avenue. People are curious, so know that Stagg is owner of the building, will remain owner of the building, but West Hab has the contract with the city, set up a that'll be used for sleeping accommodations, housing for migrant families / women and children. Not exactly if it's families with males or just women with children. That's the objective. That was done a month or so, 2 months ago, and I asked about it. I had the impression it was a major project of rehab before the building would be available. Apparently, most if not all of that rehab has been done. So the last I heard from Jay is that it's anticipated in January. Since we're moving in, communication with one of the neighbors area, they are seeking to get a walkthrough. Asking to do that from, and if they're going to get it, but that's the latest on Waldo. Zoom bombing, whoever's out there listening. So the incident we had 2 months ago, the question was, what do we do? I was of the impression, and I was wrong, we somehow were bound to the original tape. Contacted Committee on Open Government, and they recommended if the title is, Rosemary, what's the title?
You always ask me.
I always forget. Whoever was in charge is no longer there. She's the deputy, so she's in charge. Kristen McNeil, and she wrote back that, I'll just read the critical sentence. We're obligated to post the recording, and that's interesting. That phrase alone is interesting. We should retain the original unedited version, but I think it would be reasonable to edit a copy of the recording for posting purposes with a notation on the post that this has been edited due to inappropriate content. If anyone makes a FOIL request for the unedited version, it should be disclosed. But in my opinion, it would be appropriate to post the edited version. I didn't think that was appropriate, but apparently it is. So, those in the past who I've said you can't do that, apparently you can. Next item is I have invited Kip, who is a muck down at the Committee on Conflict of Interest Board. He has spoken before my committee twice before. He's very informative and very helpful for us to understand some of the things coming out of COIB. The question became whether or not she come before the board or come before the committee. Right now, we're playing more with the idea of coming before the board. However, I need to focus him on what it is we'd like him to talk about. So if any of you have some ideas or thoughts you'd like Alex to talk about, we'll communicate with him this week to tell him exactly what I want him to do. Items, and then I'm done. As a parliamentarian, I get all kinds of stuff. People ask me questions. I try to be as helpful as possible, but I shall speak saying something that may or may not impact on you, but has a bit of concern to a couple of chairs. To begin with, the open meetings law has the ability to see and hear. There is nothing in the open meetings law that says they have the right to speak. However, with our committees, it's exactly who we want to hear from. So we allow them to speak, but as chairs, we set up the standard as to who will speak and when. All we need to do is be consistent. So your committee is meeting, your committee members obviously speak and have access to communication. If a board member who is not a committee member wishes to speak, and you say you're allowing board members, be consistent, but if you're allowing the public, and for the purpose of the meeting, technically, someone who is a board member is a member of the public, and a member of the committee. So the chair sets up the guidelines and must be consistent, and with that consistency, the board chair, the committee chair, is the person responsible for that judgment. And where, how, that's in the committee chair's hands. The last item was,
Like tonight, because Mary Ellen's a board member.
it is unusual to allow non-exec people to participate.
Well, I know at a certain time she'll have to leave tonight, that much I know.
Executive session
Yeah.
aside,
Okay.
this meeting, the rules have been, at this meeting, only members of the committee. But for a reason, and what they say, the word is unusual. Committee, with the full board meeting, it was established by Mark Freelander way back when, have a gallery session. Time for the public to speak under certain conditions, and after that, no. There are exceptions, but the answer is no.
Okay.
Once you make an exception, you're stuck with it, and you can't say just you, but not you.
So Mary Ellen, don't say anything tonight. So land use and exec, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Well, land use, they've been allowed to speak. Exec and full board under those conditions. And it was thought that my committee didn't allow, but I have allowed. At any point I could say, this meeting, only committee members. And once I say, but you can, I have to be prepared to say, you can also.
Okay.
Once I say no, then the answer is no.
Doesn't it, but now if you have a policy to let people speak, going back to what you said, so they can't say no, but I.
Chair says at this meeting, it's gonna be exclusively board members of the committee. And that's the rules for that meeting. Or, this meeting, committee only, but I will allow at certain points, one input from various members of the community who may be online. Set the rule. As long as you set the rule and you're consistent.
The rule for the meeting, not for the year.
But it's for the meeting, so it's not consistent necessarily, because if I showed up to Parks last month as a member of the public, and everyone's allowed to speak, and we have an issue, and they say, well, go to the Parks meeting. This month, Deb says, well, Sergio, we're not letting anybody else speak. That's consistent to that meeting, but it's not consistent that the public can rely on it.
In which case, Deb should explain the reason why it's focused on only committee members is because she has the right to do that.
The other thing too is sometimes it'll be inconsistent is we'll say you can speak, and we'll be taking comments or questions until 8, or the next 5 people, or to cut it off at some point.
Right.
It'll do it differently at different meetings depending on demand.
Around for a while, I think perhaps we should consider whether board members, because we encourage board members to go to committee meetings, so we don't have our meetings till midnight, regular board meetings till midnight. So I think, we really need to consider, and I'll consider what I send it over, is whether board members should be allowed to speak at committee. Otherwise, I'm
the chair.
I know, but I'm saying setting a rule that is what I'm saying, because otherwise, when we're at the meeting and it's 10 o'clock, I wasn't able to get the information or present something at the committee, the appropriate committee, then may say, well, this is the only place I have to do it, you can't refer me back to the committee. It's food for thought, I'll propose it, if, I'll send it over, if it's sent over, that's all, but it's been an issue for a while.
Sergio can always speak at the park.
So like right now, Mary Ellen has her hand up, right?
But
I
she
just
can't.
told her that we probably won't call on her, whatever you wanna do.
Laura?
No, but my question now is like, she has a hand up, she cannot speak.
Can't speak.
No.
Okay.
She cannot speak.
Mary Ellen, I'll speak to you later.
You're the chair of this meeting, that's your decision.
But if the exec, I like to do the consensus, if the exec is like, no, that's enough, because then we'll be here till midnight. Mary Ellen, I'll give you a call later, or we can talk after the meeting, sorry. I'll text Oscar, and Oscar can say it, because he's a part of that. Marty, you call on people.
I just want to reiterate, with the exception of the executive committee, which is only the executive committee to speak, and LRE, which you have often, all the other standing committees and special committees, everyone can speak. So I don't really see it as an issue. This has been traditional, and you have changed, you have invited people to speak or whatever, but it's up to the chair. But our tradition is that every other standing committee and special committee speaks.
But at some point, the chair says, we're now going to deliberations.
Of course.
At that point,
Yes.
I want only the committee members.
Oh, absolutely. That's always been true. That's always been the tradition, from land use to all, everything. But what I'm saying is the public, there's no argument. I mean, what I'm saying is we have these traditions, and I don't think they've been challenged by anybody, and, that's just the way it's been.
Just wanted to clarify that point, that's all.
We also have a hand up.
Why? I'm hearing an argument with the same sides.
Right.
Anybody else?
Somebody else has.
One more quick thing. Things are brought to my attention, and sometimes I'm in error, like when I 6, which is not here. Board 8, Manhattan was Board 8. I found my mistake, and I apologize to Laura up and down on that one.
I've gotten it.
In Community Board 11, there is a issue going on, between the board and its, lack of confidence, its chair and vice chair. And we have a thing built into our bylaws were this to happen, that, a committee be set up, and it's defined how that committee operates. And, the issue here is, I say both the chair apparently is being accused of, writing not at the board, but at a publication somewhere else. It was perceived by members of the committee, members of the board, as being racist. I want that person out as chair because of it. And the vice chair apparently was running for city council and lost, and the amount, lost is irrelevant, but spent a great deal of time away from board business, worried about her candidacy. So the question here is, that issues that we need to be concerned about, election of duty or whatever, racism, we don't have to deal with, thank God. Left that last part out. Election of duty, and whether or not the relationship between the chair and the vice chair is where it should be. And secondly, the fact that in this particular case, the borough president is deeply involved in this and has threatened to remove members of the board who were not upholding the values that she believed they had when she appointed them. Not really aware of previous borough presidents who've taken that kind of action. I know of borough presidents who've not reappointed, but she said to people off the board during the course of their terms. So, I want to read the article, or I'm going to bring it to your attention.
I brought it up at the beginning of this meeting, I encourage you to put on the agenda, a discussion about, face and name for Zoom attendees. You should discuss it as an LRE committee to make a proposal to the, board.
I'll put it under new business.
Okay.
And we have the other new business item.
Okay.
But, other hand, you said there was? Oscar, do you have your hand up? Child up, I don't know if you have your hand up.
I had my hand up for the previous discussion to ask if vice chairs can be present and can speak.
Only in their stead.
I wonder why you're asking that question. The vice chair can represent the chair at the meeting if the chair is not there. Chair is there and you have 3 vice chairs, the answer is still only the chair.
Okay.
Land use.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Chair.
So we had opened a discussion with the Parks Department and the Historic House Trust meeting. The matter at hand is that the National Society of Colonial Dames of New York is the entity that has traditionally run Van Cortlandt House. Van Cortlandt House is run by a license with the Parks Department. The National Society of Colonial Dames of New York is actually the original first public-private partnership for the city of New York, and they have had this license with Van Cortlandt House for over 100 years. The issue is that in order to be a member of this organization, you have to have direct blood and ancestry that was a person of prominence in the American colonies prior to July of 1775. Raises a lot of obvious concerns. And so, yeah, and so the other thing that I became aware of was that license is no longer, it's lapsed, and it's been lapsed for a period of time. So we opened up a conversation about, is it maybe a good time to have somebody else take over the license for the Van Cortlandt House? Primarily for 2 reasons. One is that there's an obvious sense of prejudice or perception of bias, and also probably the organization itself is very limited in scope in terms of who can be part of it, and so that affects hiring decisions, programming decisions, and budget. The second part is that they are pretty boxed in when it comes to fundraising for the house, because they are not situated in our district. They have their own historic house on the Upper East Side that is their headquarters, and that they are not a historic house nonprofit the way most historic houses are run, with a central focus on raising money and doing programming for this one entity. So we've raised this with the Historic House Trust. We had, I think, a good preliminary discussion. The public came. We had about 34 people or so come to the meeting. We've gotten a few letters suggesting also that it would be good for them to not be the license holder anymore, and that potentially either another nonprofit could be set up, or that it could go to Van Cortlandt Park Alliance to act as their kind of headquarters, and that they would take over the programming, maintenance of the house, all of those pieces. So that's kind of, it was a conversation starter. I thought it was a really good meeting. And then we're going to have, hopefully, Lee Potter, who's the executive director of the National Society of Colonial Dames of New York, come to our January meeting and speak to the dames and their membership policies and try to justify it. The Parks Department and the Historic House Trust really did not want to speak for them. Any questions on that?
Will you also have Nick Dembowski speak about his role?
Because Nick is an employee of the National Society of Colonial Dames of New York, I would like to have Nick come in, but I also want to be mindful of the fact that he's in a position of speaking potentially publicly in opposition to his employer or about stuff that's related to his employer.
So the focus is on the Dames as an organization, not on the house proper.
Right now, the focus is on the Dames, and then I think once we work through that issue of who would be the correct license holder, then we'll have a better sense of what the structure and capabilities would be and what their plan would be for improving the maintenance, because that's the other big issue with the house is issues with flooding and general maintenance that has been falling into disrepair. Attendance at events is way down, money is not really being raised, and so.
If we recommend not renewing or seeking a new licensee, I just want to make sure that Plan B
Is viable.
funding,
Yeah.
yes, feasible, more funding, and supports the things we do like about the house.
So I'm working on getting just the financial documentation to just understand the financial situation the house is in and the Dames are in. And that'll be kind of one of the focuses of the January meeting, is to have Lee talk about their policies, but then also just to talk about what fundraising, grants, monies they've gotten from electeds, all of those things.
So if you were going to recommend not continuing with the Dames, would you also be recommending a new licensee? Would we need to?
I think the committee has to talk about it. We have to get a little bit deeper to what the finances are, what the park is willing to do.
Eventually, when we do it, I guess. So, the important thing for me was to make sure the historic value of the home was maximized.
I don't think everybody
Not
wants to make sure
preserved,
that
but maximized.
yeah.
So I want to make sure whoever, if there is a Plan B, that Plan B knows what to do with this incredible asset, has the funds to do it.
Agreed.
I'm not really comfortable using the term, the organization that currently has it.
They go by the Dames.
Yeah, I figured that, but I'm not gonna, yeah, thank you. I'm not gonna use it. Anyway, so a couple of questions. Is there gonna be an RFP put out for this, like there was with the stables? Like, does the city?
So it's not a concession, it's a
Okay.
license. The rules that govern the license seem to be much more murky and concessions, which have a little bit clearer process.
So is the license expiring?
License expired 10 years ago.
Okay.
But the Parks Department considers it essentially in effect.
Right, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
it's a roll-on. So,
Yeah.
Terminate a license with 30 days notice.
They don't need a public process, I don't think, for a new licensee. They can just, for example, create a new nonprofit, or they could choose to do an RFP if they wanted to have other nonprofits put in a proposal, or they could discuss with Van Cortlandt Park Alliance if they would like to take over the license. It really is up to, I think, the Historic House Trust, if they feel like who's the best hands are for the house.
so do you have an idea which process you prefer, like saying, we're gonna have an RFP, or that the alliance is a natural first, entity to take it over?
I think if the Van Cortlandt, personally, I think
Yeah.
if the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, their board, looked at the funding and took a look at the financial and felt like they could take it on as for fundraising, I think they're naturally suited for it. They're already there. I think it would give them a base of operation and offices, which they don't have in the park now. They would allow them to do programming in the rest of the house. And that they already have relationships with elected officials. I think they're very good at fundraising with grants and identifying grants that are appropriate. I think that it would be a lost opportunity, though, to not continue to have the Dames provide funding, like a grant. As an outside organization, provide like a grant for an educator, or provide a grant for a historian, or for programming, that kind of thing. I think there's an opportunity there for that kind of relationship. I think it would be wonderful if the alliance preference, I think, is for the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance, if it made sense to them. But we need to get further down, I think, to understand financially what that would mean and historically.
Or maybe it'll be deeply affordable housing.
Well, there is one person living there, I think. Yeah.
I don't think we should be focusing, as a member of the committee, I don't think we should be focusing on who. I think we need to establish the criteria, what we think the mansion needs to be able to do. And it could be fundraising, it could be physical restoration, it could be programs, it could be, I don't know. But that should be the focus. I don't really care whether it's the Dames or the Alliance or a new not-for-profit or whatever. we should establish that criteria first.
And I know we're spending some time on this, but I think it's important to make the distinction between the Dames and Nick Dembowski, who's the director of the House Museum right now, and became the director because of the contribution he made to the park, even before he was the director. He is really the person more than anybody else who's responsible for the Enslaved Peoples Project, because he did the historical research on the Van Cortlandt plantation that brought to light the history of who had actually worked on that plantation in colonial times, and that was the genesis of the whole Enslaved Peoples Project, and we gave him the Community Service Award for what he had done. So, you know, it's a complicated situation, because while some of us have misgivings about the Colonial Dames being the operating entity, there's nobody I'm aware of who has any qualms about Nick Dembowski doing what he does as director of the House Museum.
And they're paying him.
Yeah, and they're paying him, exactly. He's an employee of theirs, yeah.
I mean, I do think, I want to reiterate what Emily was saying. I think the reason that the wall text and a lot of the kind of awareness of the high-quality wall text, the awareness of its as a former place where people were enslaved, and kind of all of that stuff is, you know, is really like a lot of really good work that Nick has done. Nick is separate from the Colonial Dames, though, and I don't think that they and I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to Nick is leaving at the end of the year, and so Nick is a unicorn. He is very well informed about the history of this area, and he, you know, I think the National Society of Colonial Dames is going to be hard pressed to replace him in this position. And that the fact that his position is a part-time position now and once was a full-time position, and there was a lot more staff if you went back even just 2 years ago or 3 years ago. Also, I think raises questions about the Dames funding, and how serious they are about programming and maintaining this house. But Nick has done amazing work, and I do think that I haven't said that enough.
Remaining with the King's
Meeting.
You never know what lurks.
Okay, thank you.
Still trying to wrap my mind around descendants from 1775.
And they're just thinking, maybe they should do so.
Okay, so Public Safety Committee, we have 8 resolutions, and there's a resolution that I also intend to bring up from the floor of the full board, due to time constraints, because it was something I was contacted on afterwards by one of the business owners in our area. So we have renewal application, Greek Express, 3733 Riverdale Avenue, and 50th Precinct said everything was fine with them. Committee approved it unanimously. That's a renewal for wine, beer, and cider. We also had a renewal liquor, wine, beer, and cider for Montezuma Restaurant at 119 West Kingsbridge Road.
What was it for?
For wine, beer, and
liquor.
cider.
I didn't hear the liquor part, no. I know they serve liquor.
And 50th Precinct said no issues with them. The committee approved it unanimously. We had a new application and temporary retail permit for wine, beer, and cider, for a new business that's going to be called Sweet Billiards Corp., and it's located at 3004 Heath Avenue. It's going to be a billiards place, and the owner signed a 2 a.m. closing agreement for the first year of business, and the committee approved it unanimously. We had 2 applications for New Year's Eve all-night permits. So the first was for Magools Inc., which is AKA Spanglish. It's located at 6697 Broadway, and the 50th had no issues with this, with them being granted the all-night permit for New Year's Eve. So the committee approved this application for the all-night permit unanimously. We had another New Year's Eve all-night permit for Silhouette Restaurant Lounge, 5666, 5668 Broadway. So, the commanding officer, Captain Pierce, who's pretty new, he's been there for 3 months, and the officers that were there, stated that there were 143 complaints about this location in the past year, including 311 call complaints. There were 39 illegal parking, 15 noise from the sidewalk, and 46 noise from the residential. And the 50th were very concerned about this establishment being open all night, and Captain Pierce recommended that it be denied. So, Public Safety Committee voted 5-1 to disapprove this permit application. So we would be voting to disapprove. So our committee approved disapproving this application. Okay, so we had finally, after a few false starts, we had a few cannabis management applications come from OCM. So these are new establishment licenses. The first one was on 3547 Johnson Avenue. They don't have a trade name as of yet, and the owner of that store, 3547, it's currently a pharmacy, and the person that has the pharmacy is also applying for this cannabis license, and she's a licensed pharmacist, and they currently have a lease for that store. And, you know what, I'm just going to read this, make it easier. Stella Borokrova appeared before the Public Safety Committee on November 21st, 2023 to apply for a retail dispensary premises license at 3547. The applicant's presently a licensed pharmacist, co-owner of Riverdale Specialty Pharmacy, located at the same location. The applicant stated that if the pharmacy conflicts with OCM regulations, she will apply for a dispensary license at a different address and return to Bronx Community Board 8. I'm just going to pause right there for a second, because the reason I put that in the whereas clause is OCM has so many regulations, and we're not, even if the Public Safety Committee or the board passes this, we don't even know if these applications are going to be approved by OCM. So, the applicant, if OCM, she wants to open this type of a business, so if she's denied for whatever reason, because she doesn't know if there's going to be any conflicts between this and the pharmacy previously. A lot of this stuff is just really the wild, wild west. We're all, even OCM is not sure about a lot of these things at this point. So if there are conflicts according to OCM, and she can't operate there, then she intends to come back in a different area where she can operate because she wants to have the business. The applicant stated she does not plan to apply for any on-site or off-site retail consumption licenses. That was one of our concerns of our committee also. Are they going to be smoking up in these places? Because there are, you can apply for licenses for on-site and off-site. She doesn't intend to do any of that, not at this time anyway. So also she stated the business is going to close at 8 p.m. and follow all Bronx Community Board stipulations. And the Public Safety Committee approved this application by a measure of 5-1. Okay, so we had a second Office of Cannabis Management, new establishment license. This is Pure Bliss Cannabis Solutions, 2734 Sedgwick Avenue, for a retail dispensary premises license. So, again, I'll just read it. Adrian Christopher Velez and Frank Manganella, representatives of Pure Bliss Cannabis Solutions, appeared before the Public Safety Committee on November 21st, 2023 to apply for a cannabis retail dispensary premises license at the said location. 2734 Sedgwick Avenue is a residential building without commercial retail space. There's no store windows there. The place they intended to operate is basically an apartment on the first floor, with a door on the side of the building. So, where was I? Okay, so then, that's big negative for me anyway, for our committee. So, second, there has been no public, it's a residential building, so there've been no public hearings, no notifications to building residents that a cannabis retail dispensary is being considered to the site. The applicants don't hold a lease for the place, which Laura, if I'm not mistaken, isn't that a prerequisite for OCM?
No, it's for the Office of Cannabis Management.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, the Public Safety Committee voted unanimously to disapprove this application. And you know what, I'll be honest, the applicants themselves seemed like, you know, they were trying to do the right thing, and what their explanation was is that they, that was the space that was offered to them. They had been going around looking for places, and the places were limited or not, almost non-existent, and that's the place they took. But, you know, we did some homework on it. I did some homework on it, and Laura, a few of us on our committee did some homework, and it's a residential building. And I just know if, you know, I live in a residential building, if somebody just set up a cannabis store without me being aware of it, me just find out about it, I'd be pretty pissed that my community board or somebody didn't sound the alarm. So that was my rationale for voting against this. And our resolution, be it resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 disapproves this application. So we approve disapproving the application.
Oh, baby.
Okay, so those are the two cannabis. So the last one we had, not from the floor, the Public Safety Committee itself, we have a resolution we want to put forth, from the committee, and I'll just read it, because, yes, the, rationale behind this is that these legalized cannabis places have been rolled out, and very quickly, not a lot of oversight when it comes to not only law enforcement, but there's just so many aspects that we feel are blind spots that as a committee anyway, and I would, you know, for our community, we'd like to have certain guardrails in place that are not set up by OCM as of yet, and, you know, we would like our, you know, elected officials to take a look at this and maybe have a conversation with OCM about, you know, we think improving their policies in terms of having more safeguards for the community in these places. So, whereas on March 31st, 2021, New York State legalized the production, sale, and use of recreational marijuana by passing the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act, creating a new Office of Cannabis Management and Cannabis Control Board to issue licenses and develop regulations regarding how businesses can participate in the new industry. Anybody want me to just get to the therefore be resolved?
No, read it.
Yeah.
Read it? Okay, I'll read it.
Sure.
Whereas under the cannabis law, community boards are given an advisory role in deciding of adult use cannabis recreational dispensaries. Whereas community boards are given 30 days to comment to the OCM, plus one 30-day extension, which may not accommodate the board's calendar to allow timely review by the Public Safety Committee and full board, especially as community boards do not meet in July and August. And whereas under the law, applicants are not required to appear before the community board, and whereas illegal, unregulated cannabis businesses and smoke shops that target youth are proliferating in Bronx Community Board 8, posing health hazards, whereas the Bronx Community Board 8 Public Safety Committee unanimously approves this resolution. Therefore, be it resolved, in addition to restrictions already in place near schools, 500 feet near schools, houses of worship, 200 feet, or youth facilities, the Public Safety Committee recommends that recreational marijuana dispensaries not be sited less than 500 feet from community facilities such as homeless or migrant shelters, libraries, or parks. And be it further resolved, the Public Safety Committee requests that OCM extend the comment period for community boards to 60 days in addition to allowing one extension. And be it further resolved, the Public Safety Committee requests that OCM applicants be required to attend a Public Safety Committee meeting when applying for a license and return to the committee for license renewal. And be it further resolved, the Public Safety Committee requests enforcement measures to close illegal cannabis businesses taken immediately by appropriate city and state agencies in tandem with our elected officials. Be it further resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this resolution, and it was, approved unanimously by the committee. So that's what our proposal is. That was the last one that came out. I do have one that I want to bring up, and make sure the executive knows that I intend to bring this from the floor, because it came up on the 5th. One of our local businesses, the Barbecue Pit, their license, their wine, beer, and cider license is scheduled to expire on December 31st. So, you know, obviously, our next full board meeting after this one doesn't meet until January. So they've actually asked for a 30-day waiver. I would say we've had no issues with the business as far as the 50th precinct is concerned. It's been around for 20-something years, Julie. And they're a good business. You know, rather than just drag this out, I'd just say we bring it up at the full board for approval. Rather than put some waiver, which we don't even know, you know, how SLA is gonna respond to that. Let's just pass them and get them through. They're a good business, and you know, we have no issues with them.
The resolution regarding the cannabis, be it further resolved, Bronx Community Board 8 approves this resolution. Facto, because there's a vote.
I don't understand your question.
What does it mean then? Like, when we vote and approve it, won't that make it, that'll mean it's approved by community board? You don't need it as a therefore be it resolved.
I get what you're saying.
Like, you could cut it, and then we would vote on it, and we approve it, and then it's approved.
What do you?
So wording, that's what we're gonna talk about in the new business, basically, yeah, he's
Okay,
putting
so
it in as a committee.
I'm just gonna say also, this is like something I guess we need to discuss, but every one of my resolutions, or resolutions rather, had that in it, and I've been doing that since, are we talking the same thing, or?
Just to speed up, you know, committees, that's in tonight's business, in the new business for resolutions, and basically the committees, when they turn in their committees, like Rosemary said, it will be attached to the minutes, the committee resolutions, it'll be worded.
So we're not gonna change the committee resolutions
Right,
to
it's
board
gonna be-
resolutions anymore, they're just gonna say.
No, it's gonna be board without the committee counts, so that the committee chairs, if someone says, well, how did your committee, respond, you're gonna have to know, because it will be ready for board count.
Simplify that to me, so that means we're gonna take this out of every
Yeah.
one? That's fine, I actually agree with that.
No, but there's a distinction here. I mean, we're kind of splitting hairs. But you put in there that we approve this application. This is different than saying we approve, but it will be. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, I think, but if it's a resolution, it's different, because I think that adds clarity to the application that we've approved it as an application to SLA, which is different than passing a resolution, right? I mean, it is, the application essentially is to pass a resolution, and it's clarified with that final comment, which is the way you've been doing it for a long time. I don't think that needs to be changed.
Well, the
But
resolution, it will be that you are approving.
Correct, I mean, you could, but I think the distinction, there's a different distinction when you have a resolution like this resolution here, which is not an application, right? It's a resolution. Ask for, you know, certain things that the committee has discussed, and so I think there's a difference there. I don't think you need to change both, that's all I'm saying.
We'd only change this one because it's a.
Yeah, because it's a resolution. I wouldn't change the way you've been doing it. I mean, but it's up to you. I mean, I think it really doesn't make a difference one way or another, but it does add clarity that we approve this.
So we would ask, because everybody gets the resolutions way before the meeting. I shouldn't say that, we should be getting them. So when we do start getting the resolutions ahead of time, just shoot the chair a message, then rather than wait until we get to the meeting and start hashing it back and forth. Like, whatever your suggestion, so that when they come to the board with the resolution, or even to the committee, it's pretty much hashed out. One suggestions before we even get here. Guys will be like 10 minutes on every resolution. And it's the wording aspect of it.
Unfortunately, to that end, cannabis locations in community district coordinate. You'll see it in your text.
Quick question, Fred. Ed, you probably said this numerous times, but I don't remember. How long is a license for a cannabis site? When they get it, so how many times, will we see it every year, every 2 years, or what is the?
We even get a,
You know what? We asked the question, they didn't answer the question, but in reading the cannabis law, I saw 2 years.
2 years, okay.
that is in the resolution, right? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
For the Silhouette, you had a lot of complaints. Were there any determinations, any of the summonses that, the place itself given any summonses, and do you know what the outcomes were?
I could go into my phone and look at Captain Pierce's thing. A lot of these things are coded, whether some of them are some things are unsubstantiated and some things are substantiated for whatever reason, and all the complaints were validated against, that doesn't quite answer your question, but.
Okay. No, that's right.
Good evening. The next TNT meeting is the 21st. The November meeting was very robust, and many of the individuals who were impacted by the installation of City Bike voiced their concerns. I am working with the office to get a meeting and a walking tour with the Borough Commissioner. It's trying to get it for the 19th or the 20th of this month. And then the last thing I would like to bring up is that the Jimmy Packus resolution will be presented to the board again. That would be the second time. I know when we presented it in November, I mentioned that his passing was in December. We are now beyond the 2-year mark, so the resolution is ripe for the board's consideration, and I just wanted to be.
Question, so a number of your meetings ago, a number of people on the committee asked DOT, how many parking spaces will be taken away by the installation of the bikes? We've never gotten an answer, have we? Or did I miss it?
I don't recall. I know that they responded to several questions from the meeting that you're speaking of, so I would need to look at my notes and get back to you. I can email you later.
Okay, that'd be great. And if not, maybe, Farah, maybe would be a good district service cabinet meeting, you know, how many, it's a simple enough question, and it's been asked.
It is a simple enough question, but there were a number of, for DOT at that meeting, and they did do their best to respond to each one. I saw Bob Panuzzi, and then Laura, and then, and Serge, yes.
This came before you, but there was a resolution of the board, I believe in the narrowing of Riverdale Avenue, the redesign of Riverdale Avenue about a year ago, that called for left turn signals, arrows at 256, I believe, right? Because there is one at 254. You bring that up again at some point, because we did that. There were real concerns about traffic control with that, and they said they would look at it once they had their striking.
56 in Riverdale?
256.
It's the northbound, right? That's it, yeah.
I'm horrified by all the parking spots, what City Bike has done. I'm really horrified, because I can attest that, we wrote a very strong letter to DOT when it first came up, that we did not want any parking spots used and I see that, you know, I know I specifically talked about Broadway, where they had widened the sidewalks so much, and they were concentrating on Kingsbridge, and I said, put it on the sidewalks, they're wide enough, put them on here, there, and they did that, but then they put them all over. I just sent, Farrah a picture, Irwin and 232nd Street, and all over. And the bank of bikes take up like four or five
parking
spots. And, you know, I'm just horrified because we were so clear as a board that and it's not necessary. There are places that they could put it, not in the street.
That was, you know, one of the
furious.
the largest gripes, presented to DOT. We did express the concern with them, and the stations that they put in were actually not the size that they indicated during their presentation, because they indicated that it would be likely limited to 2 spots. They would put the smaller stations there when they appear to have put in the larger stations, not to mention that they're heavily concentrated in certain areas, and it just, the demand for
seniors too,
right,
where there were seniors population.
Right.
Amalgamated.
Yes, Sergio?
So, yeah, a couple of, well, one observation and one question. So they set it up at Van Cortlandt's Tail at 240th and Broadway, Van Cortlandt Park South and Broadway. And that's a wide enough sidewalk. It doesn't take up the parking spots, it doesn't take up the bus lanes. That seems to be like to be the prototype.
Exactly.
It's in a spot that it doesn't disturb pedestrians or traffic in any way, because the sidewalk is wide enough to accommodate it.
Exactly.
Number two, are we getting, do we have access to the usage? I mean, because they obviously have exact numbers for how many people rent bikes there, how many people put bikes back there. I think that would be interesting to see, like, 2 people are using it a month.
Yep.
They're taking up 5 spots. You know, I'm just curious, you know, if we can get access to that information, because they have it to the minute when people use them and how many people use them. Yeah.
Thank you, Kelly.
That's the underlying point, yeah.
Okay, you,
I have one quick question. Is there, it's probably way too early, but is there any indication of when the new intersection safety program is gonna through our district? It was announced like 6 days ago.
The daylighting?
Daylighting? No. Okay.
Ellie, while you're looking at the left turn lane, ask DOT to look at the street in general. It's a disaster. Trying to go past there when kids are being dropped off, picked up. There are no bicycle lanes. There are no middle lanes at the school. You have to go through the striping if you're lucky, otherwise you have to wait. It's backed up all the time. It's dangerous. For kids, it's dangerous.
DOT has told us that they will send enforcement, traffic agents, and they're not, and that's one of the things that's necessary.
Asked them, had you ever seen the school? Had you gone to the school and done traffic planning before you put the lane? They said no. They would do it, and they didn't, and they put it in, and it's exactly what we expected.
Julia, you?
Next meeting is the 18th. We're gonna be visiting Kingsbridge Heights Community Center. Priorities, we're gonna try to focus on getting youth to engaged in some civic activities and also figuring out how we can support, that's it. Nutshell.
Margaret, that's great.
Scree had a resolution, which I don't see.
We'll make sure we have it.
Okay. So it's the resolution that I mentioned, I believe at the last board meeting. We only have a draft, so, we'll have for the full board.
We will, I'm hoping to have a meeting in January or February, once I have a sense of the calendar those 2 months, because there've been some developments that I want to catch up on. This is for the Greenway Committee.
Susie, we skipped you earlier.
So our committee has been dominated by flooding and construction issues. There is a resolution, so why don't we turn to that first? There isn't a time when you say, why would they build a building there? So this resolution is about a charter school as of right development on 232nd between Irwin and Tibbet Avenue. And it is a very narrow lot. This doesn't have any environmental impact traffic study. It doesn't have anything of even what transfiguration lot went through. And the lot was bought about really 8 years ago, went through different purposes. It was going to be a high-rise, and it became a school. And this was actually easier for them to escape some FAR limits on what they were doing. So it's become a school with no educational purpose, serving the community. The neighbors have formed a coalition. They've come to our meetings, and they're incredibly informed. They've been reaching out to us since January. Kingsbridge Community and Tibbet Towers Community has been reaching out to us since January of 2023, concerned about the building of the school. So it is kind of a Rube Goldberg. Oh my God. So it is a Rube Goldberg construction. One of the things that makes this so ill-advised is that it's literally in the bed of Tibbetts Brook. And this is the vestige of the original stream that ran down Tibbet Avenue. And to build this property, they have to, what they call dewater or pump out, basically Tibbetts Brook, over 6 months, about 1 million gallons. This is the same Tibbetts Brook that they're spending $150 million to daylight. Now they're allowing a developer to pump out Tibbetts Brook into the river and combine sewer over. It's unbelievably adverse to everything that and for in terms of preventing runoff. This is creating runoff. But they're not even pumping it in directly to the sewer. They're pumping it into a property next door that they bought. Say they bought, right next to Tibbet Towers, 3133 Tibbet Avenue. So if you can just imagine, they have a pipe and a sump pump running from one construction site to another. We have no idea if this other construction site can hold water and what's going to happen to the water after that. It's not, they have plans for it. That is called the dewatering application, and that's what got E&S involved. The neighbors have alerted us that since they built this hole in the ground, they have had so many DOB stop work orders and complaints and flooding and damage, because when you build and you're building in the bed of a stream, you are going to create water problems for your neighbors. So Tibbet Towers has had flooding in its basement, lost parking spots in its parking lot, lost elevator use. They are deeply involved in conflict. Neighboring buildings are also being flooded by this. So we had heard enough. We had 2 meetings of this, and the committee passed a resolution. So we are asking DOB to maintain stop work orders until they resolve these environmental difficulties. They had water on site, and they allow construction to continue on a full stop work order. It's been held to try to get DOB to respond and work with the committee to respond to these. If you say to DOB, do you remember when we were working with SNAD and they said, oh, we're going to create the regulation and DOB will enforce it.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm.
So DEP creates regulations for water management and DOB enforces. DOB now says that's the DEP's problem, and they won't do anything about it. So this is a textbook case of how land use is screwed up in construction. Because the DOB just doesn't know what to do with the authority that other agencies give them. It's a perfect example. But it's really creating water hazard and water damage. So we want DOB to meet and work with the community, with elected officials are now involved. And of course, the community board, we want them to reinstate a full sub-work order until all the environmental issues are resolved. We also want DEP to answer our extensive questions about this dewatering, because it's asinine. The construction has now created this excess water. We may have to dewater, but we don't know if it's safe to pump 1 million gallons into a residential home. This is, until 6 months ago, it was like, you know, those buried homes on Corlear and Tibbet. It was one of those. And now it's gonna hold 1 million gallons. Who does this? So this is an example of something that never should have happened.
Sorry, Bob, I'll give you a minute to wrap it up.
All right.
Because we're not even halfway
So
through
please
the
say yes
agenda.
to this at the meeting, it's very involved, but we just worked like hell on this. The same thing in SAR. Okay, so SAR's construction created runoff problems for the dentist at 6011. We're trying to get SAR and the dentist's office to work, it's a professional building, to work together. There should be some infiltration, green infrastructure that the school can do to capture the water on the property. We are concerned about the new construction going up, whether that will have a stormwater prevention plan, because that'll create more runoff onto Riverdale Ave and neighboring properties. So construction and flooding issues have been held. And then we find out that the mayor canceled composting, our signature project. We'll hear about that from me. I'm sorry for going over, but I hope the resolution speaks to the needs of the community, and we have 2 agencies that we want people to do this.
The next meeting?
We are taking December holiday, and we will be back in January.
I raised that issue with Chuck last night.
Oh, thank you.
And I think you really ought to coordinate.
Okay.
Meeting up on DOB he loves doing that.
Okay, good. Yeah, thank you.
And just
An email today, they were doing a joint meeting with Women Dinowitz.
Oh, yeah, we're invited, yes. That's right, yeah.
On this issue.
Yeah, so,
And you.
right. So in the resolution, it says we shall meet. Now that this happened, should I knock that out? One of the things we demand, so we have a lot of demands, and sometimes it's good. Now, I'm looking for advice, because we just got confirmation that one of the acts has been,
To cancel it.
let's keep it in, I'll take it out. I'll take it out
Absolutely.
on the floor. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We had our meeting earlier this week. We sent, the minutes went out already without the attachments. I asked for it studied. We had a couple of new veterans come to the meeting. We had a little celebration afterwards. Very nice. We sent up, and this is a question. We have a certificate of appreciation that we had sent over. The committee voted on sending her Barrett, the color guard that did the walkthrough, and parks in general. We partnered with Stephanie Ehrlich from the Vancouver Park Alliance. They are our partners in this, so we worked with her committee back and forth. So it's currently co-signed by Ehrlich on behalf of the Alliance and myself. There's a version with Julie's signature on it, so the committee approved that. And unless Julie doesn't want her name on it, they approved it either or. So I'm not sure if that needs a vote or not, but the action item that we have, and we'll be meeting probably in February. There was Councilmember Dinowitz did come to the meeting. He announced that we had we have a new bill that all city forms going to ask veteran status on it. Big, because veterans are usually self-identified. that'll be an entree for services. And if anybody has any issues, I'd like to thank Rosemary in the office. Rosemary took up half the meeting, you know, she had, but in a very productive way. We have an issue with 2701 Kingsbridge Terrace with some veterans there and the treatment they're getting. So Farrah's addressing it for us, and if, to try and work with them. If that doesn't work, we're gonna make the referral to the city department of follow-up. But I think, you know, Farrah's doing it, you know, is helping us and doing it the right way, just trying to interact at the lowest level, not make a big deal out of it if we can resolve it, the issue back and forth. So, we'll continue to report, and that's.
Margaret, do you mind if I bring up this issue? We had, at a screen meeting, we had spoke about homelessness among veterans is a high-risk group for homelessness. And I've worked with an organization that is actually addressing this, currently working with it. I'll come to your meeting. When is your next meeting?
February.
But I'll reach out to you about looking at some of the potential for homeless outreach programs in our community, specifically for veterans. I'm very happy to bring what I'm learning to your next committee.
Right. That's such a hard issue because, you know, they cross over mental health issues and such, because there are quite a few organizations that do homeless veteran services.
In our district?
Yeah, in our district, it's just, people don't avail themselves of it. People specifically, even if you tell them, don't avail themselves of it very often. It's a challenge, because, yeah, there are several organizations, and there's federal funding for it, et cetera, but we'll talk, of course, yeah. I'm not saying
I'll
no.
come to your meeting.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a challenge that the veterans have.
I wanted to give a special thanks to Farrah, because this issue wound up in the Housing Committee, and it shouldn't have been there. Bob, you were at that meeting, yeah. So what's good about what Farrah's doing is not only getting the information from the mayor's veterans, she's working with Mr. Wilson, who is this gentleman. If you ever meet him, you'll fall in love with him. You feel so sorry for him. And the good work she's doing with him and the city agency. So I want to give a special thanks. Right.
It up because I saw the relief in his face.
You saw that, right? Yeah.
Just a follow-up on Sergio's report. He mentioned that there were 2 certificates. I've only seen 1. And we went back and forth on the certificate issue, whereas the main issue for me with the certificates is normally when a committee does something with the board, they let the office know, they let the chairs know, they let the exec know, they let someone know. And we take a look at the documents before it goes out. I had asked if you could just give names of the people that you're doing the certificates for. I have to redo the certificates because you had an agency outside of the borough, outside the community board, and we needed to know for sure that they could be put on our certificate. It's coming from the community board. And you had the logo on it. There were a few things with the certificate as our emails went back and forth, and the response, you know, it's like, oh, if you want your name on it. It's not the fact that I want my name on it. I don't care about my name. It's the fact that it's coming from the community board, and the staff is here to assist on the documents with you. So I'm going to put forth a resolution next week to the board because I just think that it should be a given that anything coming from the board should know about it, and I should know about it as well. Certificate, it wasn't signed by a committee chairperson. You had a different title on the certificate. The community board's logo. I asked you if the Parks Department can give us a logo if we're going to do a joint. There were so many things with it, and then you had a meeting and you guys voted to do some other certificate, whether I sign it or not. And the fact that I sign it or not is not the issue. It's the community board.
Yeah, that's
I want to be clear, because I was on some of these emails, is they The one that I saw was an email asking if this is what we'd like to do, is this okay? Now, we're issuing these, and it started as a question with a draft. I didn't read it as we're doing this and we're putting this forward. I understand there was back and forth that I did not keep up with, I'm sorry, so I may have missed things in between. I didn't.
Quite a bit then.
But I thought,
The bottom line, I didn't give you the floor. What do you mean you're not done? I have to give you the floor first.
I thought we were on my section.
No, I was speaking. I had the floor.
I thought we were on my section.
No, so I'm putting this resolution, and it's like, this is a basic thing. You can't just do anything.
And, well, yeah, that's why there was a motion made. That's why something was passed, that's gonna be taken to the board. I was saying, it's gonna be taken to the board. That's exactly what I was saying.
I read your minutes. It's like, if she wants to sign, fine. Okay,
It's like, no, it was not actually like, if she would, that it was passed, whether if you'd like your signature on it, that's fine.
anything coming from the board does have the chairperson's signature on it.
And it was passed in the alternative, that if you choose not to, that it's fine. It was an option, it wasn't either or,
It's not an option.
I'm missing something as parliamentarian.
Yeah.
I'm missing something in the translation. Committee resolution has an idea, has a thought. Is it before us, or goes directly to the chair's approval? Nothing goes out from the board without the chair's approval. That's been the practice, it's written, it's what we've done. So I don't understand what your concern is. If you went through that process, there shouldn't be a problem.
There's not, and if the board votes that this goes out, it goes out. I think that's what.
The way it going to the board, first of all, it comes here if you want a resolution.
It's not a resolution. It's saying thank you to people. This is really a little ridiculous that we've taken this much time on just something that says, hey, thank you. It's the people who participated. It seems to be, we seem to be getting a little overly.
So we don't disagree. So the question becomes, it goes to the chair. If it's a letter, if it's a whatever it is, it goes before the chair. It goes for the chair's approval. It can always be overridden, but it goes for the chair's approval. Apparently that step was missed.
No, that step happened like a month and a half ago.
I said no.
Right.
So I don't know what was missed here.
No, I think Marty said it goes to the chair, which it did.
No,
and he said it could be.
came to the chair after the fact.
No,
okay?
it hasn't gone out yet.
Let's just move on.
No, it hasn't gone out yet, and like Marty said, it can be overridden, so there'll be a vote, and if it's not sent out, it's not sent out. That's fine.
So we're voting we're voting at the board meeting on something we haven't seen yet?
Exactly.
I attached it to my minutes.
And
I don't know why it's
on
not.
something, and on a certificate
No,
on the
it wasn't
original.
attached to minutes that went out. When I sent my minutes in, I sent the attachment.
Also, Sergio, I'd just like to say that I think one of the subtexts here is that when it goes to the chair, out of respect for the chair, the chair asks for changes, you just simply make the change, and you go through, that's the process. And what seemed to happen from your description is that you went to the chair, and the chair said, I disagree with these things, and so then you made a different thing.
No,
right? So now we have two things.
No, that's not,
Okay.
no. To be clear, I asked for specifics because we shouldn't, come to the meeting, as the chair said, we should get things in advance. What specifically is an issue? She said, for one thing, anything that goes out should be signed by the board chair. We added the signature. I asked, are there any other issues? And there was no response. Are there any other issues?
Has she signed off on the current format?
No, but I asked.
I would recommend doing that
No,
before bringing it before.
I said, hold on a
Just to
second.
be clear, just to be clear, I will send everybody the email,
I was in the middle of speaking.
because I have 5 points. Well, I can't hear, and I
But I was in the
cannot
middle of
stay
speaking.
here when you're you're not telling the truth.
No,
There were 5 points that I gave you on my initial response.
We disagree, because I asked, the last email I sent, I asked, could you please be specific, because that will be helpful.
I was specific on my first email, and I will email the board, unless that's not correct.
Okay.
Because I don't believe, this is
So what are you asking the board to do? Can you say thank you? Yes.
Okay.
But is a certificate coming from the board that's different? What am I voting on? I want to see the certificate.
Right.
Right,
And
yeah.
it should come from the board, it's more meaningful.
No,
whereby-
that's why the board chair signing, she said, no, it should come, and I said, yeah, that makes sense.
I said, no, I said, we can co-sign Parks Department could be there if you want, but we need authorization that they can be on our stationery. Wording on the certificates needed to be reworded. It needed to be cleaned up.
Right, it needs a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
it needed to be cleaned up, and that was all said in the initial email. There was no follow-up, it was on the initial, I put everything on the initial email. And he said, no, I'll just do it. And then they went and had a meeting the other night and said, we're gonna hand whatever certificate they had, or haven't seen it yet, and this is what they're gonna send out. And I did not appreciate also, at the last board meeting, when you publicly said, listen, you're not gonna get an official thank you, so let me just thank everyone now, and you listed all these people in your committee. That was a disservice to the board, because we definitely will thank people if you do things correctly. And because you didn't do it correctly, I have to submit a resolution, and hopefully people will be of sound mind, because I don't think anyone should just decide, I'm gonna do this and send it out on board, stationery, letterhead, logo. It's not right.
Right.
And that's why I'm gonna put this, and really, there's no need for another discussion. If I can send out the email, I'll double check with Marty, maybe it's not appropriate, because I don't like this he said, she said, because it's all in the initial email. I don't have to send out the whole thread, I can send it out.
We should send out that.
But this will go out only because etiquette isn't followed. I mean, this is like basics. Why should I even have to do this, but I do?
We can disagree.
We more than
No,
disagree.
no, hold on a second. And
We
this
more
is,
than
no,
disagree.
this is,
This
you
is
could say,
insane.
you could say that, no, it's not,
It is, because this is
hold on a
basic
second.
etiquette, basic etiquette.
This is insane. That is an inappropriate comment. That is an inappropriate comment. You should not be saying that to a fellow board member or a community member. And you should not. I am not insane for having a disagreement with you.
Okay, I'm gonna move this along. Anything
No.
else on your report?
No, I'm taking a point of personal privilege. You cannot say, use the word insane.
Okay, I heard you. Is there anything else?
To describe this, and I think you should apologize.
Is there anything else?
And the fact that this discussion has been going on for a while, we can, at the end of the day, disagree without calling each other insane or any other
I
name.
said, it's insane. I didn't say you were insane.
Yes.
Point of order, what is the business in front of?
Business in front of us is, go on to the next agenda item. Unfinished business. Finished business? Okay, new business. Resolutions is the first point. With the resolutions, it's pretty much online what Rosemary was earlier. The resolutions, when the committee chairs send in the resolutions, I think Zach will go over it, it'll be from the committee chairs. When it goes out to the full board for the meeting, it will switch from a committee resolution to the board resolution.
Yeah.
Without any votes. So just make sure, because some people, the resolution comes from the committee on the floor, and they have, in case someone says, well, how many people voted, just have that information with you, because it will not be stated on the resolution going to the board. Board members, staff, and participation during committee meetings. Sarah touched upon it earlier. The staff won't be able to and give you assistance with the Zoom meetings. If you don't have anyone, please talk to Sarah, and she'll train whoever needs help with the Zoom.
Are you changing the process? It's helpful for members of the board to know it was a 5-4 vote. I want to know who voted against it.
They're gonna get that information when they get the minutes.
Yeah, the minutes. Yeah.
They're gonna get it. They're gonna get the resolution. They're just gonna have to open the emails and start reading. They're all gonna get the minutes and the resolutions, the committees. And the chairs will have the committee resolutions with them at the board meeting in case they are asked that. They can state. And the regular board meetings, basically, it's just about the timing. We're trying to figure out how we can consensus so we can get out of there on time. Feature with the Zoom, with the clock, we're gonna give it a shot the next meeting, have a clock there, the timer's gonna go off, and I'm just gonna have to move people along. And I apologize for having all those other elected officials, not elected officials, but representatives. I think that took a lot of time the last meeting. Won't happen again, sorry. And try to speed it up and use the clock on the Zoom. And if you're giving a report, when the clock goes off, just wind it down. Then, I'm gonna go back to, because I had deferred doing my resolution, my report in the beginning, because unfortunately I forgot my phone and I forgot my emails, and the person I emailed.
That one person that came in late.
So Farrah and I were working on trying to get my report, because I just had two things for my report. I had two resolutions, one, dealing with the certificates. Another one, I have a resolution, let me pass these on. The second resolution, just a backstory, a quick backstory. There was a board member who, was going to assist local merchants in the area, and he contacted the board office, he or she contacted the board office and asked the board office to facilitate a meeting with an agency head, the merchant, and him, and the board member, without giving us any information on who the merchant was, what the serious issue was. It was supposedly a very serious issue. Wouldn't give us any information at all after about 7 email exchanges, trying to get the information. That it came to the point where I had to say, ask the staff not to facilitate a meeting because we didn't know any of the circumstances, nothing. The member refused to give us any information. So, since I guess it has to be in writing, again, putting forth a resolution saying that if you are a board member and you ask the office for assistance and you're going to participate with an agency and a constituent or whatever you want to call that person within the community board office, and you're acting as a board member, you must tell the board, district manager, basics. That's what this resolution is about. I will put that forward next week. And I mentioned it briefly at the last month, it's in the minutes, but I think because of things that are happening, that some people need to see it in paper, maybe they just don't know.
Yeah, I do, Julie.
Yeah.
Facilitate an introduction or meeting with whom?
An agency. And the wording is totally, I just did this real quick, so you can definitely chop it up. I'll email it to everybody. Yeah. Because it's a lot.
Yeah.
I just did this really quickly this evening before I came here. A meeting with the, any agency. Well, actually with anyone. I shouldn't even say agency, because they could be acting as maybe as a mediator between person and anyone else, so I will definitely have to change that. It's just the fact that they're acting as a board member with anyone else. We need to know what's going on, especially if we're told that it's a serious matter. Because God forbid that something happens and then they're going to come back to the staff and say, why didn't you do anything? You could have done something.
Explanation is important. All that you want to go into procedures manual, everything after be it resolved.
Okay. I was just giving a little bit of information. Yes, that's basically what I have to go with. Bottom line.
Whoever, okay, you know who teaches us very well on this issue really is Chuck Merdler, because in land use, many issues come up that turn out to be literally private disputes between people or a private issue with the city agency. We should not get involved in those things. I mean, if there's like litigation or anything, we don't take sides like that. Service delivery is one thing. Look at the charter, what do we do? But Chuck has always been superb in separating those issues. We have no business getting involved in. They're private disputes, they're private, and taking the side of an individual and bringing that to a city agency, it's inappropriate. It is. That's why bring the stuff to the community board, and between the chair and the district manager can sort out what's appropriate and what isn't. That's okay.
That's what they're there for.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whose hand? That's Julia.
are we also gonna include the criteria for that request being declined, or is there gonna be any kind of like that we're gonna be, like, if I request a meeting with Alexander from DYCD for what have you, and for some reason, sorry?
That's what this says.
I'm trying to think of something that I would actually have some knowledge of a little bit, so I'm sorry if the example's imperfect, but if it's decided by the office that that's not appropriate or what have you, will I be informed of why it wasn't appropriate or what, like where I went wrong?
No, because you're telling us who and what and why and where. If you're telling us, I want to meet with this person, I'm going to take this person who lives in the area, they have an issue, and you're not telling us what the issue is and who the person is and anything, then why are you using board staff?
Sorry, I wasn't clear. I'm saying, once this is in effect, and I say, I want to meet with so-and-so because of this issue and da-da-da-da, if the office decides that that's not appropriate or incorrect, will what I did wrong be communicated to me, this is inappropriate because, or this is not appropriate use of resources because, like, it's...
Carol will tell you, yes.
Yeah.
She'll guide you.
It's very rare that I do these things, so I'm very likely to duff it up. So I'd like, I just want to make sure that, like, someone could do some hand rolling.
She will guide you. That's why we wanted to know, with this situation, why I drafted this, is because we didn't know what the situation was.
No, I understand that. I just, like I said, I am very likely.
Farrah will guide you. Farrah guides me, she will guide everybody.
Is that okay?
Yeah. We're happy to do that, and like I said, if you want to invite or do, that's fine, but you always include us, the office here, on any outgoing requests or things like that. I mean, we'll do it and include you, but we also have other chairs who have relationships that can speak to them with us on it, so nothing's ever done without the office.
Any other questions? The next meeting, executive meeting, is January 3rd. Now, I'm going to make a motion to go into executive session regarding
Recording, yeah.
regarding personnel.
Yeah.
Recording? Yeah.
Yeah, we should record that.
Okay, so I make a motion to go into executive session based on open laws meeting 105H.
Second.
Anyone opposed? Abstain? All approved. And you're gonna be.
There you go. All right, we're recording.
I need to bring Mary Ellen back, I
Yeah.
think she's
Still there?
Yeah, go.
Right?
Oh, we have people, great.
Yeah.
You guys are,
Any other item?
Okay, so we're out of executive session, so the last point is, miscellaneous business consensus on office sites. So, in regards to our discussion in executive session, the preferences for the majority, with except one, is to go for number 3, 2, and then 1, in that order.
In that order.
In that order, yes.
We're gonna tell them to go for all of them, but that's our preference.
Correct. Sounds good.
And, very quickly, last night I went to, at the request of the chair, to the,
That's right.
to the, State Board of Regents, hearing on mayoral control of the Board of Department of Education. It's coming up again in 2024, because they only renewed it for 2 years. So, I will leave that to the board and to Sylvia to see if this is something we want to opine on, it's appropriate to opine on. But there was our discussion, the UFT is definitely against it, 38 out of 40 speakers were teachers. They're definitely opposed to mayoral control, that's what I got out of the meeting. I was there just being there on our behalf. But, I wanted to raise that, it's coming up in 2024 for another vote before the Assembly and the Senate. So we should start thinking if we want to take a position on that or not.
And I forgot about that, and thank you, because you went at the last minute, I appreciate it.
Yeah, they could give us more notice on those meetings.
Yeah.
Ms.
That was
Ms. Dow, that,
That
you
was a
know.
very, and you did have, she appreciates it.
Yeah.
you're trying.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Yes, everybody say yes.
What?
I'm in the middle of my motion right now.
You win.
You too.
A while ago?